story my aunt repeated that my sister said. That there was a point a few years ago when my sister was still dating, that she was staying with my grandparents and she was helping them, they were helping her, she was dating. And at nights, she would come back home some nights and she would tell over the stories of what was going on her dates to my grandfather. She would sit and hang out with him. Not Kobe. That one worked out very well. There's a couple stories that were not a couple dates that weren't so successful, and to say the least. And she was complaining to my grandfather and telling him what happened. This guy, he's crazy. What he did on the date. And I don't know if he wrote it on the pad or he's told it to her. He wrote it on the pad. He said to her, he's like, Tila, my love, if you stop speaking Lashon Hara, you're going to get engaged. Just stop talking about it. But that's really who he was. And he's the only person who could say that. Because he was able to give Musar. He was able to talk to people. And still not be seen as a stubborn type of person just rebuking him. No, I don't want to listen. Everyone would smile like we just did. And just say another story, how even though he was so humble, what a pioneer he was, and how, he sometimes just didn't face in what other people thought. And this time I'm going to embarrass my grandmother. My grandmother was telling us the story from when they met, how they got engaged and when they got married. She said when they were still in Iran, they said at the time, we all laughed when she said at the time, Lashon Hara wasn't considered such a bad thing. She
didn't know.
They didn't know it was Allah.
They didn't know it was Allah. So basically, they at the time, given the circumstances, my grandfather was coming from America, and there's a lot of more details that I'm leaving out. But my grandmother originally had said since she didn't know enough about his midot, she said that she doesn't want to go out with him. And typically what would happen at the time, apparently, was that the family, in order to comfort the boy, who was given a no from the girl, they would say, she wasn't that good at shidduch anyways, I heard this about her, and they would put her down. She said that, my grandfather said, why do you need to put another person down? Why do you need to speak about her? What are you going to gain? Again, this is before he was, I don't know if he knew what Lashon Hara was at the time. This was like much earlier on, before anyone was Shomer Shabbat, Shomer Torah Mitzvah, before we had rabbis teaching us Torah, and before he really, so before he was married, when a young boy coming back from America, and he was able to stand up to everybody else and say, this is wrong, don't do that. He was a pioneer, he was confident. But still, that same person, years later, was the same person who every random guy, for the little, seems a little bit, the right way to put this, socially they're a little, and they come over to him in shul, and they're speaking to him and saying Shabbat Shalom, he would just listen to them and smile with them, and talk to them. And this is what I witnessed with my own eyes. And if you had to choose, if I asked you, there was somebody that was, like I mentioned before, somebody emotionally unwell, he's an Ashkenaz rabbi's son in Queens, and he needed a parnasa, he needed a place to stay, he needed someone to be with. If I gave you a multiple choice, I said, he found a place. You know what it was? Either a chesed organization, some rabbi that did a lot of Achnasat Orchim, or a popular genius man who's respected in the Mashari community, was successful in business, and which one would you choose? It's not him. It didn't match any of his details. But he didn't care what people thought. He did what was right, what he thought Hashem would want him to do. He lived in his house for years. When I don't want to go too long, just to mention something along the lines of what I'm saying, that as I listened throughout the Shiva to all the different speeches that everybody gave, each person spoke about different nekudot. Something else, something special about my grandfather. Sometimes you think from the same person, you hear more or less everything goes along the same line, but it wasn't with my grandfather. Not only that, some of the midot, like I mentioned already, seem to be contradictory. Grandma would speak to us about how loving and caring he was. My mom, my aunts, my uncle would say stories from when they were younger, how fun he was, how patient he was, how disciplined he was. The people that told Chalpami, like she mentioned earlier today, how Baba came and sat with her, the person was unwell for hours, and he arranged them, the different people that arranged things for them to take care of the funerals. They'll tell you how much he loves to do chesed. Rabbi Shub, at different speeches, spoke about how he was full of energy and personality. Rabbi Kalmer spoke about how much he loved to come to Shiurim and learn Torah. My uncle, Rabbi Chaim, he spoke about how he learned Musar. He worked on himself. All his Sifrei Musar were used, they had notes in them. Amuadi told me something I never even knew, that he started an organ donation organization. Rabbi Ben Chaim mentioned to me multiple times when he was praising Baba, this is not recently, said how much work he put into the community Sidur. My other Baba Rabbi, he at the half event that we had in the shul, spoke about how much emunah he has, how much he believes in Hashem, and he has complete trust and faith in Hashem. All these things, a lot of them go hand in hand, but a lot of them don't. And he knew how to take every midah and use it properly, like we've been saying, for